Hi everyone, I'm Brianna and welcome to Roll Initiative. And on today's top tips for DMs, we're going to be talking about creating NPCs. So, let's get started. A lot of DMs struggle with naming their NPCs, and there are a lot of different ways to do it, whether it's looking at fantasy name generators, or whether it's looking at names in different languages, or from movies or books that you know, such as Lord of the Rings. Or even just hitting a couple random keys on your keyboard and then trying to turn it into a name. But a lot of the problem is improvising names on the spot. And while I can't really help you with coming up with names on the spot, I can offer some advice that I have found very, very helpful, which is however you choose to come up with names, write down a list of names that you think are good and keep it with you when you DM. That way, when you get into a situation where an NPC needs a name and you don't already have one picked out for them, you can just browse your list and pick one that seems to fit. This has helped me out so many times, and I think it is definitely advice worth sharing. There are many, many ways to create unique and memorable NPCs, and one of them is appearance. But you don't have to make an NPC super different and weird in every way for them to be unique. Make one detail that stands out, whether they're just an odd race that your players don't see often, or whether they have some sort of weird scar, or maybe it has something to do with their clothes or something that they're wearing. Just make one thing that really stands out. Your players aren't likely to remember a really long, in-depth description on how an NPC looks, but they are likely to remember just one thing that really stands out. There are a lot of really neat ways to make individual, unique personalities for each of your NPCs, but one that I really like and find really useful is basing their personality on a mood. Whether you have an NPC who's generally quite grumpy or standoffish, or whether you have one that's based on being happy, whether they're always happy and talking really excitedly, or you might have an NPC based on being jealous. It could be some sort of stuck up noble who's always unhappy because everyone's always got something that he doesn't. And it can make for a lot of really neat, really interesting characters really quickly and really easily. Giving your NPCs a purpose or a goal is really important because sometimes you can fall into the trap of all of the NPCs being there to help the players. But it can really help for the world to feel much larger and more interesting if the NPCs have other goals. Maybe there's a merchant whose dream is to travel to another land, but he needs to get the money. So he is not likely going to give the players a discount because he really wants that money to be able to travel. Giving NPCs these interesting goals can make them feel so much more alive, and it'll help you decide how they should act. This merchant might help the party, but he's unlikely to give them stuff for free or give them money. Though he might do a lot more for them if they can help him with his goal. But there we go, that's the end of this video. Although it's also really important to remember not to get too attached to your NPCs, because sometimes your players just won't take any interest in them and they won't come back. Or sometimes players just seem to particularly dislike some NPCs for some reason and bad things happen to them. That is just how D&D works. The NPCs are side characters. While they're really fun, they're not the DM's character. You can't treat them like it, and it is really important to remember that they are just side characters, there to make things interesting and to add to the game. It is kind of up to your players what NPCs they like and decide to come back to. But anyway, I really hope that this was all helpful and that you enjoyed the video. And if you did, then I'd be really grateful if you'd consider giving it a like or even subscribing to my channel. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.